The educated people are certainly starting to question it, and they find themselves in a real pickle, all right? Because what's the economy of the South based on?
The cotton,
slave labor.
Right. Well, it's based on agricultural products that take a lot of labor. All right. So even once you come to the realization this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this, there are people that feel it's wrong that don't know how to get rid of it. I really believe that in order to undo that institution, that the Civil War had to happen, because only something cataclysmic enough to rip the culture right down to its roots, and rebuild from scratch was going to do it. So there was no easy way, even though people are starting to question it. There's an abolition movement going on in England. A guy who is really involved in that is Josiah Wedgwood. You ever heard of Wedgwood, China?
No.
Josiah Wedgwood is the family of Wedgwood, China. Wedgwood, China is a huge company. He's right up there in the 18th century world. Josiah Wedgwood is right up there with Trump and some of that crowd. And he's decided it's wrong. And he's got a lot of people that are looking that same way in England. All right, and England is gonna have a lot more stringent laws sooner than we will, because they're not stuck with it. And I think that's really a good way to look at it. A lot of people don't necessarily like it, but are stuck with it. A lot of other people probably have just grown up that way and never really thought about it. Talk to somebody who's in their 70s or in their 60s, who went to school prior to civil rights, and ask them what they thought about segregated schools. And until it changed, they probably never thought about it. It's just the way it was. I went to high school, with the other kids that were the same race as me. So until it changes, I think a lot of people simply don't think about it.
Okay, and what do you think about the role of women in society? Like how they're treated and such?
Well, I think that women probably are not as stay-at-home as most people seem to think. I think there's a lot more women out there working in the 18th century than most of us credit. But, it won't be until, do you know when women finally get the vote?
1920.
Yeah, 1920. And so there's going to have to be a lot of different reevaluating that thinking. And it's amazing, you hear about the Sons of Liberty at the outbreak of the War for Independence and some of the scrapes they get into. Start reading about some of those early suffragettes and what happens to them when they start to, and really all they're doing is doing things like giving speeches. They're not destroying anybody's property, they're not doing anything, but they're getting taken in and they're getting thrown into jail, and they're getting the snot beat out of them for giving speeches, just for saying out loud that the women should have the vote. So it's going to take a long time. But once again, when I was a kid, a little bit younger than you all, there was a real different standard for boys, different standard for girls, even when I was in school. Because, yes, women had the vote, but we really hadn't seen that. Well, in the 70s they called it women's lib or feminism. We really haven't seen that yet. And we're unusual. Us and the Europeans are really unusual. I mean, think about gender roles in the Middle East, right? It's really different even today.
Can you tell us about your job here in leather?
What would you like to know about that?
I don't know, just
work hours,
Well, like anybody else, my work day runs pretty much with the light. All right. Now it's really easy to figure out what the work day of somebody in the Army is because it's all regulated. And I can tell you right now that the drums will beat reveille as soon as the Sentinels can see 1,000 yards. So what time is that?
6.
What month is it? Right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's going to vary a little bit by the time of year, but it doesn't really matter. See, I don't own a watch. I don't need a watch because the drums are going to beat. You tell me when it's time to get up. And the drums are going to beat again, and everybody's going to turn out for a ceremony that's called troop beating. And really what troop beating is when They call a roll, make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be, and they give out work assignments. Now, my work assignment's the same every day. So, off I go to work, and I'm going to stay at work until another drum beating called retreat. And that's going to be the end of the workday. And when is that? Well, that's usually a certain time ahead of sundown. Right? So 2 hours ahead of sundown, retreat's going to be, you turn out, answer a roll call. And so, in the middle of the winter, what time's retreat going to be?
Earlier.
It's going to be really early. And in the summertime, it's probably not going to be until about 7 o'clock. Right?
Okay.
And so that's really, really easy. But basically, everybody works from the time it's bright enough to work until it's too dark, too. About the only people that are probably taken into account in their cost of doing business, lighten their workspace, taverns. Because when's everybody go to a tavern?
At night.
Yeah, at night, when they're done working, right? Or travelers, they don't want to travel in the dark, so they're going to stop at the taverns. So the tavern keeper, he's got to light his place, right? But that's about the only one.
Okay, and how do you feel about immigration for white and black?
Absolutely. Remember I said that this country has a deficit of labor. We need more workers. You know, if we had enough labor, we never would have brought in slaves in the first place, right? So bring them on, bring more. Because there's a necessity for that labor. And my modern politics are actually very similar. I mean, I think a lot of these people that are complaining about illegal immigrants need to stop and remember that their grandparents probably came through Ellis Island, right?
Yeah.
And then there probably is work. I mean, look on any construction site, and you know, who to see? Well, a bunch of people who may or may not have green cards. But are we able to find enough people to take those jobs here? Well, we scream about unemployment, but there are still jobs that we cannot fill, right? So we need those people. But do I think that they should? Do I think that they should have a work visa? Yeah. I don't. You know, that's just not fair to anybody. They get cheated. They get paid less than minimum wage. And there's also cheating going on where people are getting on food stamps that aren't paying into the system. So I say, make it easy to get a work visa. So anybody who wants to come here and work legally is able to do it. And if they want to go through the steps, and there's a ton. You know anybody who's an immigrant that had to naturalize?
To naturalize.
Yeah, who became a citizen.
Dad's
Yeah.
parents, maybe?
To
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Okay, I have no
Because it is not easy.
Alright.
You think some of the standardized tests you might have to take in school, oh man, you should see what
Yeah,
somebody who wants to become a citizen has to do.
Our teacher gave us the citizen. I would have
Didn't
A
never.
lot of people who are born here cannot pass the
Didn't
citizenship
Didn't one
test.
person get like a B in her class?
Yeah, like, I mean, she only gave us like 10 questions each.
Right.
But like, I got like 6 or something. And that was
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
got
see, that's
six.
what I mean.
Yeah, I got like 6.
So it's not easy, but do
Yeah.
I think that people ought to be able to get in and get a work visa so that they can do things legally and have the option to become citizens? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But this flow of people that are sneaking in and getting fake Social Security, we've got to figure out a way to do that. But hey, I'm not the one to figure out how to do that. That's why we're supposed to be electing people who are smarter than we are.
Alright, and lastly, does it matter to you whether these immigrants are Christian or not? From the time?
No, it doesn't to me. Remember, too, that even though Virginia has a state religion, all right, which is the Anglican Church, and you pay taxes, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you go to temple on Saturday instead of going to church on Sunday. You're going to pay your taxes. But you know where those taxes are going?
Ethan, don't hold.
Poor people, looking after orphans. All the stuff we all want.
Yeah.
And so is it fair that you pay taxes to a church you don't attend? Maybe not, but is it going to things that we all want to have?
Support.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Now there is also too a parliamentary act of 1681 called the Act of Toleration, and that means if you do not want to attend services at the church, what you have to do is you have to go down to the courthouse and you have to declare yourself under the act of toleration. And at that point, you're absolved from having to attend church, all right? And that means if you want to be a Baptist, or like I said, you want to go to synagogue, and there is one in Richmond by the 1750s, by the way. We have a Jewish population here. So you can be what you want. And then Mr. Jefferson is really going to see to that later on, too. And that's going to do away with a state religion, right? But like I said, people tend to think that having a state religion is a bad thing, and I don't think it's quite as nefarious as it looks, you know. It's not like you're going to be forced to be an Anglican.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Have a picture.
Sure.
Thank you.